Hi, it's Dr. Betty Robin with the Dentistry Rising podcast. I'm really happy to say that we're surpassing all of our goals in number of podcast downloads. And that means it seems I'm on the right track as to what you need help with and what you want to know. I do talk to many of you every day since I am a dentist as well as an attorney, and I really get what your issues are. My goal is to help you get where you want to go in the best possible way and to create the practices and lives you are proud of and want. Hi, it's Dr. Betty Robin with the Dentistry Rising podcast. Today I'm going to put my attorney hat on and discuss an important legal case with you that came down about a year ago. It's a case that affects many of you California dentists. And I want you to know what I think about it because I don't want you to end up with thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars of problems, as some dentists actually have during the past year. Some of you know I used to practice quite a bit of employment law, but of course, I'm not your attorney here, and this is just my opinion on a podcast. You should definitely consult your attorney if any of what I'm going to talk about applies to you. One of the biggest questions that comes up these days, and there's a lot of differences of opinion on what's right and what isn't, is whether it's okay for an employer dentist to pay an associate dentist as an independent contractor. Some bigger employers have changed the way they pay, and some have not. So what's the deal? Well, first, of course, it's preferable for an employer to pay someone as an independent contractor to save on employment taxes, Social Security, unemployment insurance, etc. And then if someone's an employee, you also have to provide workers' comp, sick leave, and comply with an ever-lengthening list of federal and state laws governing employees. So yeah, most of the time it is a benefit to pay someone as an independent contractor and not an employee. And it can be advantageous to the employee as well because they can write off expenses. Well, just about a year ago now, on April 30th, 2018, the California Supreme Court handed down what's considered to be a landmark employment law decision in what's known as the Dynamex case. Specifically, Dynamex Operations West, Inc. versus Superior Court of Los Angeles. Dynamex is an on-demand, same-day delivery service, mostly for businesses like Home Depot and Office Depot, but they also have individual clients. At one point, they did consider their drivers employees, and then management decided that it would save a lot of money by classifying these drivers as independent contractors. And they went to great lengths to comply with the law. Drivers did not have to accept deliveries, what they called gigs. They were able to say what days they wanted to work and not work. They did drive their own cars, etc. But Mr. Charles Lee, the plaintiff in this case, felt he was an employee and he sued after about 15 days of work. Later on, another plaintiff was added to this case, and then the case was certified as a class action. It's not an easy feat to get that certification. Now, the facts in this case are really not at all similar to the operation of a dental practice. However, this case essentially changed and clarified the law as to independent contractors in California. And it is applicable to all wage orders, and dentists are covered under one of these wage orders. Please note, this is an extremely important case for California employers, including dentists, and quite dramatically changes the current law. Now, this case progressed up the legal system to the California Supreme Court. And in that decision, the court rejected the current test as to whether a person may be properly classified as an independent contractor or not, and handed down a new test and a new legal presumption as to whether someone is an independent contractor or an employee. The new test is called the ABC test, and the new legal presumption states that in California, all workers covered under wage orders, which is pretty much all workers, are presumed to be employees and not independent contractors. Many of the words I'm using here have very specific legal meanings, and we aren't really going to go into that. But the legal presumption, taken at face value, means that everyone really is presumed to be an employee rather than an independent contractor, unless the employer can rebut, meaning knock down, that presumption. The court starts this very long written decision by stating the misclassification of independent contractor is harmful and unfair to workers. We all know that California is an extremely liberal state and extremely employee-friendly, but this case really drives that point home. Okay, so let's talk about the new test, the ABC test. Under the ABC test, set forth in Dynamax and now law in California for about a year, a worker is an employee unless he or she meets all three of these tests. Number one, the worker is free from the control and direction of the hiring entity in connection with the performance of the work. Now, this has always been a test, and very few dental offices could actually meet it even back then. But clauses in this regard were added to many associate contracts and trying to call dentists independent contractors. Number two, and this is the biggie, the worker performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. This is a very significant change. And in my opinion, and most attorneys' opinions, dentists can never satisfy this second prong when employing associate dentists. And thirdly, the worker is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business of the same nature of the work performed. Let me repeat, all three of these points must be met to overcome the legal presumption that someone's an independent contractor rather than employee. As an example of someone who would be considered an independent contractor, an example the court frequently uses is a plumber coming into the dental office to provide services. If you hire a plumber to fix your toilet, you don't care who shows up, you don't care what tools they use, you don't care how they actually get the job done, as long as your toilet works when the plumber is done. And the plumber is obviously in a completely different business than the dentist is. So what does this mean to you? In my opinion, it means, number one, no, you cannot properly hire associate dentists or dental specialists as independent contractors. And no, it does not matter if they're independently incorporated. And no, it does not matter if they work other places. And no, it does not matter if they want to be paid that way. Second, no, you cannot properly hire dental hygienists as independent contractors. These workers are employees, and all the laws that apply to employees in California must be followed. And no, you can never properly hire a front desk or a dental assistant as an independent contractor. Okay, so don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you, and I'm just telling you because I don't want you to have a huge problem and have to pay a huge amount of money because of this law or something you didn't know. I wouldn't take it lightly. I wouldn't think it won't happen to you. I mean, I'm no goody two-shoes, but this is something you need to pay attention to, primarily because of the amount of money you may have to pay if you have a problem. Now, check with your own attorney. Again, I'm not your attorney. I'm just reviewing a case here and expressing my opinion. So I hope you found this useful, and thank you for listening to this review of the Dynamax case. And the reason I did it is I'm just hearing more and more problems coming out from it. And yes, again, I think it's something you need to pay attention to. I hope you're enjoying my new podcast, Dentistry Rising. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, and now on Spotify too, as well as most of the other podcast players. please leave a rating and comment on iTunes. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter by searching Dr. Betty Robin, DrBetterobin, or our website where you can learn a little bit more about me and our guest. Thank you and happy listening.